Welcome to Everything is Dead, the show where we challenge the myths of B2B and uncover how go-to-market professionals are thriving in channels everyone says are dead. Today, we're diving into all things cold calling with Colin Specter, VP of Sales at Orum. Welcome to the show today, mate.
Ben, thanks so much for having me, and excited to come on the show and breathe life into what folks believe is dead. So looking forward to today's discussion. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you on, mate. And I think leading Orum, you're probably privy to a lot of conversations around cold calling and the successes that people are having. So I couldn't think of anybody better to have on. I always like beginning this episode with a broad, sweeping statement. If I said to you, cold calling is dead, how would you react to that statement broadly?
Cold calling is dead for those who, whether you think it's dead or you think it isn't, you're probably right. Just to borrow from that famous quote from Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably correct. And I can assure you, for the practitioners out there of the phone, it's very much alive. Live
Love it.
conversations, human interactions, very much a thriving channel for those that are willing to commit to the practice. Like when you think of cold calling, it strikes a lot of chemicals in the brain, a lot of, I think, stress chemicals, fear, uncertainty, anxiety, doubt. That's why you see a lot of buzz anytime cold calling is mentioned on LinkedIn. It strikes a chord in the human spirit. I think very much in the same vein as public speaking strikes a chord with people, and folks are afraid of it. They're unsure of it. They don't like to get cold called, or at least they don't think they like to get cold called. And they surely don't like to make cold calls, except for some select elite few sales and business owners that have such conviction for why they're calling. And yeah, it's a topic I love to jam on. Yeah, thanks
I
for
love
having
it,
me
mate.
up here.
No, I love it. I love it. And I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, I'm actually a big proponent of cold calling. A couple of deals that I still got on the table at the moment, I've been cold calling them, texting them anyway. And I think that's an important takeaway for everybody listening to this, which is I think you owe your buyer the chance to deliver the medium that they like, if that makes sense. And so I think at SenseBug, we do video, cold email, there's LinkedIn DMs, there's voice notes, there's cold calls, right? And so I actually think it comes down to that, in my opinion, which is actually tied to what does your buyer prefer predominantly. You talked about practitioners. What makes a good practitioner of cold calling?
Someone that knows how to talk to people live on the phone very simply. And when you say, when I say practitioner, someone that is leveraging the phone in their daily prospecting efforts. And so they've got a great operational rhythm around identifying who they want to call, creating a list of people they want to call, and being really disciplined in executing calls to those specific people. And then when they get those people on the phone, they're sharp on the phone in terms of their script, their objection handles, their closing questions, driving to next steps in the call. And so like true practitioners of cold calling are really sharp with their skills, really sharp in communication and their conviction and their message. And they're also able to think on their feet quickly and pivot when necessary as well. And they have an arsenal of objection handles and questions that they want to get the answers to, and they want to find paths to connecting through curiosity and conviction and care with the people that they're calling. Yeah, in broad strokes, it's people that you use the phone every day are really strong in this communication channel. And it is a skill that, you can get rusty on if you don't stay on top of it. No matter how many years you're in selling, it's like, recall, I was at an SDR at Namely and then became an AE and a sales leader. And then when I came back to Orum, I had to cold call again. And it had been probably three years or so since I had made consistent cold calls. And so with that, I had to shake the rust off. I had to remind myself about getting into the flow. It's one of those skills that has like endless levels of mastery. And so if you're not staying sharp on it, the skills can dull, but you can resharpen that at any time if you commit to the practice.
Yeah, I think you mentioned like some elements, like it's a recipe, right? And you mentioned the first component, which is like creating a really good list. And actually, when I think about any go-to-market tactic, whether it's ads, whether it's email, whether it's calling, your list is fundamentally the most important part. And even going a level deeper, you really need to understand core customer profile, pain points they typically have, and then build that list in a very targeted way. And so when it comes to like building lists, And you're probably living this firsthand as VP of sales, right? You're giving people lists and information to reach out. How do you determine who's a good fit for Orum? What's that process that you go through to actually build a target customer list?
That's a great question. So it really depends how early you are in your journey, right? If you think about the spectrum of listeners, and if you're early stage, you're trying to figure it out, and you got to get your first kind of core customer base. Let's assume you've at least gotten your earliest customers, right? Through founder-led selling, and now you've got your salespeople on the team, and you've got some semblance of market fit for what you're representing from a message perspective, a product perspective, a problem-solving perspective. That's where you start. It's who do you solve problems for, and who do you solve problems for the best and differently than ways they're trying to solve that problem today. Just as a simple description there. And whether it was at Namely or here at Orum, I always just called people that would buy Orum, would buy Namely or would buy Orum. And so you look for what are those core ingredients. Those core ingredients of who's bought your product in the past, who your messaging resonates with, what problems you solve uniquely better or different than anything else out there, including alternatives, not even direct competitors, just alternative ways of doing that, solving that problem. What makes you different? That what you have to represent, you need to have so much conviction for that targeted list of who you're calling. When you get a conversation with them, you're so convinced you can help them. That connection over the phone is going to come through. And when your conviction is greater than their conviction, you're going to be able to book a meeting for more time. You're going to get a sale. You're at least going to spark a champion to go into a sales motion. And that's what a cold call is all about. It's about sparking that curiosity to agitate a response, a positive response, and get someone to want to commit more time. And because now they're curious, they're like, wow, this person interrupted my day and is changing the pattern of thought here. I'm curious to learn more. Like they've come in, they've done their research. They seem convinced they can help me. They've helped my peers or others like me. This could be a life career changing conversation. Sure, I'll hear more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. And I love a couple of things that you said there, because you're right. Like there's different demographics of listeners. I'd imagine some are early stage, some are more established. And I always say you probably shouldn't be doing anything at scale until you have your first customers and figured out what resonates, your messaging, all that type of stuff. Because until that point, it's shouting into a void. And so cold calling won't work if there's not a clear value that you're offering to the people that you're reaching out to. I think you mentioned something really interesting though, which was once you've got this list, and again, you've approached it pretty scientifically in terms of who are our previous customers, who do we service, all that type of stuff. You now move to actually making the call, right? So now you've got your list, you're pretty happy with the list that you've developed. You've mentioned scripts, but there's also I'd say like a nimbleness and an agility that's needed on a cold call to react to what the other person says. And so I kind of wonder, what do you train your team on? What do you teach customers to do in terms of the actual delivery of the message? Like any best practices or tips there from actually delivering the message on a cold call?
Practice. And I think it's something that most sales leaders and teams, like they want to do more practice. They don't do enough of it. And I know I've gone through periods of time here at Orum, even where I've gone on to other things and you get another strategy and building and ops. And so look, you got to get back to the fundamentals of actually practicing the words and getting your team really sharp in the specific wordsmithing that resonates with that persona, with that market, with that buyer. And so when you get them on the phone, you know that all of your people are sharp in the script and you've got the script in front of them and they've practiced it before that conversation enough to where they don't sound scripted. Their art, their humanity goes over the words, much like an actor would in a Hollywood film. You get the Hollywood script and the actor takes that script and makes it their own, right? And they may improvise upon it, and that's okay if it works, right? If it works, and so you'll look at conversion metrics, and your best people are going to take what's working and then some. And every quarter, you're going to see some standout reps that are just above and beyond what good looks like in terms of the conversion rates. And so some of the metrics you're going to want to monitor are, of course, your connect rate, which measures your data quality. That's how many calls led to a pickup from the actual person you're trying to call, like the correct contact, your connect rate. You're going to want to measure your connect to conversation rate. And so that's how many of those pickups was I able to keep someone on the phone long enough to have a real conversation and give my pitch. And then I'm going to look at my conversation to meeting rate. And so you can look at either the connect rate to meeting rate or your conversation to meeting rate. But those two key metrics are where the script and success of the message, you can start to get signals on what's working and what's not. And for those unfamiliar, at Orum, we have a system purpose built for cold calling and measuring the effectiveness of cold calling. And we're looking at all your objections and all of the words that are used on your conversations. And so we'll start to show you trends on what words are working, what words are not working, where reps are having success with certain objections, where they're faltering with certain objections, who needs help, who doesn't need help, who you should add to your playlist as like the greatest ever for certain objections. And so you want to spread what good looks like, and that will change as new competitors come up, as the market evolves. And so I'd say every quarter, you're going to want to look back. Even better, you could do it every month, but we do a QBR. So we'll do a quarterly look back at our key metrics and see who's the best, who's like the first chair in the symphony at each respective behavioral metric that we want to keep track of. And that relates back to our messaging and our scripting or tone, like they're saying something different. If we look at the same persona, same industry, then what's changing in the way that they're pitching it to make it more successful?
Yeah, I love it. And there's a couple of really interesting topics that you brought up there. And it was actually going to be my follow-on question, which is like, what makes a good cold caller, right? Like when you are interviewing people to bring onto the team to be like, hey, I think they're going to crush it from an SDR standpoint, are there specific like personality traits or things that you look in an individual that you think are slam dunks for them to be successful in cold calling? Is there a core set of characteristics that you're prioritizing for?
Like in terms of hiring profile, yeah, I look, in this day and age, you need to look for people that know how to talk to people, especially. And it seems obvious, but yeah, like they need to have a good experience talking with all kinds of people, and they need to have the right kind of bravado and charisma and curiosity and care and emotional intelligence. And I'd say like wrap that around actual experience talking live to humans. And so I've had great success hiring teachers who talk all day to students and parents and other people. Service industry, one of my top sellers right now came from a Michelin star restaurant prior to Orum, and she honed the skill of working in a highly competitive environment and talking with all kinds of international customers coming in and out of her restaurant. And so you get really used to the spectrum of human emotion and how to stay calm, cool, confident, and collected, no matter what someone is saying to you. And so they're really comfortable with that level of interaction. And look, like in tech sales, you can look for people coming from other sales industries, right? So they could be coming from life insurance or door-to-door solar, or they were selling pest control door-to-door, and now they want to get into tech sales, right? So I look for people that have had communication experience and they've got those competencies around charisma, emotional intelligence, curiosity, care, and resiliency as well. Like someone that has been through a really hard time and was able to come out on top, and through that, they can face adversity, they can face rejection, and they can keep going, they can keep moving forward.
I love it, man. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then I guess the second follow-up and one that I wanted to drill down on. So inside of Orum, you have like playlists, you said, where you can view other people's calls, presumably. And so like, how much do you think that plays into becoming a better cold caller, is just not only getting your own reps in, but listening to the people that are having success and almost tweaking and copying? Is that a core component of how you're training your team internally, I guess, at this point, to be better cold callers?
100%. Yeah. You have to show your people what good looks like. You have to show them for each play that you want to run. Look, the highest fidelity of a true enablement is got examples of what good looks like for each specific play. That takes a long time to build out. It really just takes thought and care. Like you got to really take the time to save the call when you find the call that you see has the exact prototype of where you want people to focus foundationally. And then your best people, again, they're going to take that, they're going to make it their own. And the best of the best are going to evolve it. And you're going to see every quarter, every season, somebody stand out and beat that metric, beat that conversion rate. And so all the more important why you should have a measurement system in place to measure the key behavioral metrics, right? The metric is like the outcome of behaviors that happen upstream from that, right? So the metric at the end of a period of time will tell you who's doing the right behaviors and who might need help with certain behaviors, right? So we can isolate specific behaviors we want to focus on. If we're talking about cold calling here, it's in specific messaging typically, right? And you can filter for the person. Are they calling the same titles? Are they calling the same industries? Are they calling at the same time of day, same time of week? All right, now that we've isolated these variables, I can focus on the message. Is it their tone? Is it the cadence in which they're speaking? Is it the exact word that they're using when they ask the question? Are they pausing enough? So you can get really deep, but all of this really matters. It starts to really matter, and you can start to make the shavings of each of these into a big pile of better conversion rates.
I love it, mate. Yeah, I love it. I think that's awesome. The way that it's like very data driven. It's not, I guess it's almost not subjective in a way, right? Because you can take the data from these calls and actually turn it into actionable improvements in the team. I'd imagine when you're on sales calls and your sellers are on sales calls, there's a lot that they uncover from like pain, right? That's fundamentally what they're doing is like, what seems to be the issue at the moment? How can we help you solve it? What are some of the kind of gotchas or big mistakes that you see companies make that leads them to search for a solution? Like, where are they going wrong right now? So if there's people that are listening that have a team of SDRs and it's just not working, right? Fundamentally, what are some of the things that are common or maybe easy fixes for them to make?
When we say it's not working, I'd like to understand what specifically. So we're staying under the umbrella of the phone. I'm going to do really an audit on their cold call kind of readiness or operational readiness. Are they optimized for the phones today? And let's do an audit on their outbound process holistically. Let's do an audit on their operational readiness. And so let's understand an inventory of what exists today and where they have gaps. And so looking at, do they have scripts? Do they have messaging in place? Do they have a phone system? Are they calling on cell phones? Do they have data that they can actually call? Do they know who they're supposed to call? How much direction are they given in that regard? Is the company telling them, hey, this is who you should call? Or the reps kind of said, hey, we sell this product, go figure it out. So there's a whole spectrum here of operational readiness. So try to find where they are on their journey, like on the spectrum of, I hired a bunch of reps and I'm like asking them to figure it out versus we've got our scripts, we've got our contact data, we've got a phone system. I know I want my reps to talk to at least 5 people a day, and we're going to convert 20% of those. And I just want to do that more efficiently and more effectively versus I need foundational help to get to here. It's like the gap in between is where we sell a phone solution. We're figuring out in our first calls typically where folks are on the spectrum of I need foundational help to I've got a great engine and I want to make the engine even more efficient and transformational and effective. Yeah. So we'll go through an audit on that and just get a sense of where they're at and some key ingredients to answer the question even more directly. You need to have a really strong frontline leader that is holding the reps accountable. Nothing can replace that. No AI coach bot can replace that. No phone system can replace that. You need to have a great frontline leader that is saying, hey guys, follow me up the mountain. Hey guys, this is how we fight on the field. This is how we play the game. This is how we pass the ball. This is the play we're running. And they're practicing and they're regimented and they're rigorous and they're holding the team accountable to a standard that is set from the business, that is set from the sales leader and from that frontline leader holding them accountable. So if you don't have a great frontline leader doing that, leading from the front, especially, then that frontline leader needs to have a great lieutenant, like a team lead. There needs to be someone that the rest of the team can look to and be like, okay, I'm following that person up the hill. Like that person gets it. They're leading from the front. I'd say where most, like when I take the subset of teams that kind of bumble around or don't work out, they're missing that person or persons who are on the front line, like beating the drum of operating. We're rowing together and we're calling together shoulder to shoulder, prospecting. This is what we're doing. This is when we take a break. This is when we make the calls. This is when we prospect. This is when we email. And it's just a core difference in performance of the ones that have that are like IPOing today. One of our customers, Rubric, just went IPO in the last 12 months versus others that maybe don't get past like a series A or B in some respects.
Yeah, I love it, mate. That's, if anybody takes that away, I think that's spot on in the way that you can't expect a founder who maybe isn't willing to put in the effort to like help build scripts and analyze data and stuff like that. You can't just give them phones and expect them to put means. I wholeheartedly agree with that. You did bring up something interesting, and it's kind of an interesting topic in general. AI is pervasive across sales now, right? From account research to writing cold emails for you. Where does cold calling go in the next year, 2 years? Is there ways that AI improve the practice of cold calling? Or do you think like in the cold calling as a mechanism is always going to be purely human and AI won't really impact that, so to speak?
Look, like people still send letters in the mail. The printed word didn't replace like mail. Email didn't fully replace like getting a letter in the mail. AI is going to exist in the cold call world. There are robots that are going to make calls, whether it's in responding to inbound. Some people are even doing outbound AI calls. There's always going to be human to human interaction over the phones. Like I 100% like, let's look back at this in 2 years and see like people are still picking up the phone and calling one another. And because we crave that human interaction, that's sales is a transference of feeling, and feeling is very much human. And so two humans having a conversation like this one, transferring ideas, transferring conviction, transferring emotion. That's how sales happens. If I share a really great idea, I'm really excited about a new restaurant, a new surf spot, and I want you to come check it out. I want you to come eat with me. I'm transferring that conviction to you. It's the same that we do for our products and services. Like at its fundamental base, that's what selling is. And so cold calling is just one medium, talking on the phone, to have a live human interaction. AI can help with many aspects of that. So whether it's on making sure you've got great data, making sure you've got the right script in front of you, helping you with good objection handles. We have laminates on people's desks with their script and their objection handles. Now you can put it on the screen with AI assistance, right? So the AI is going to be there more as augmentation. I do see AI even helping, like, you know how like you have filters on this screen share? I don't know, like I said, focus mode, I come in and out. It's like AI can help on the voice. You know, you've got echo cancellation, you've got voice augmentation, like things to really help the fidelity of the tone. I see that coming out more and more. But yeah, people are going to keep talking to people. That's my firm belief.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And again, people that are listening to us, best way to get me to prospect me is still cold calling. 100%. Like I don't respond to cold emails, but if you cold call me, I'll pick up the phone all the time, to be honest with you. I'm a living testament to the power of cold calling. Colin, been fun. Like I said, really tactical takeaways from this, which I knew that there would be. Where can people find out more about Orum and follow you? I imagine LinkedIn is a good channel.
Yeah, I'm mostly on LinkedIn, Colin Specter. I'm sure we'll put a link in the show notes. And again, head of sales at ORUM as in mother.com. Yeah, we'd be happy to give you a demo there. You can also follow the Orum YouTube. We've got great cold call training videos on our YouTube, great all about objection handling and foundational script building for those that want to get to a place of operational readiness for any phone system or getting their people on the phones in general. So check out our YouTube or our LinkedIn. And again, connect with me on LinkedIn. And pleasure to be here, Ben. Thanks so much for having me.
No, awesome. Thanks already for tuning into another episode. And Colin, thanks so much for coming on today.
Such a pleasure. Thanks
Cheers.
so much.